and welcome to this new edition of Let's Talk About. I'm your host, Gina Seeley. The Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation was established by an Act of Parliament in December of 1981 to economically empower the Bahamian people through the promotion of small and middle-sized business. The new PLP administration is committed to building a more vibrant and accessible BAIC and has placed at the helm of the organization a new executive board chairman who has a new vision for the organization. Join me in welcoming Mr. Arnold Forbes, the new executive chairman of BAIC. Mr. Forbes, thank you for joining us on Let's Talk About.
Ms. Seeley, it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Forbes, first of all, let's talk a little bit about your background. What is it in your background that you feel qualifies you to take on this new position?
Well, I come from a legal business background. I started my first business in 1998 and have been on my own ever since. I decided after finishing university that I studied to become my own rainmaker. And I bit the bullet shortly thereafter, a few years after I'd finished, and I've not looked back since. And during that process, I've developed 2 or 3 fairly successful businesses that they're still in existence today, and I'm proud to be associated with them, and I'm proud, along with my wife, to have cultivated those businesses. So I come from a legal business background. I'm an entrepreneur, and I believe that I've done a very decent job at it thus far, and I believe that I can take BAIC to new heights using a new thinking, a new consciousness, moving forward and moving people forward and motivating people to achieve the goals that BAIC was initially enacted for.
Before we get to the new thinking and the new way forward for BAIC, let's talk a little bit about its current state of affairs. What's going on there right now?
BAIC, as I met it, has not changed in probably the last 10 to 15 years. I would first like to thank the former chairman, the executive chairman, Mr. Edison Key, who did an excellent job as far as agriculture and trying to move agriculture forward in the Bahamas. But I believe that BAIC can do much more than it has been doing over the last 10 to 15 years. It starts with raising staff morale. It starts with a new outlook. It starts with really going back to what BAIC was really formed in the beginning to do, and that is to economically empower Bahamians, economically empower small businesses, and get Bahamians away from the idea of working for someone, but work for themselves through small business, through light manufacturing, through agribusiness. I am there to reinforce and bring back to the fore the initial dream that the government in 1981 had for BAIC and Bahamians as a whole.
So you feel that over the last few years we've sort of strayed away from the initial intent of the organization, and you want to put it back on track?
Absolutely. I think we have. I'm not knocking anyone, but I believe that BAIC was not really performing its mandate, that it was the reason why it was set up and enacted. I think that if we can move back to that, we can employ more Bahamians. I believe that we can economically empower more Bahamians as well. Let us get out of the idea of working for someone or working for the government. Let's work for ourselves. Small businesses, are the engine for any economy. And the more Bahamians that we can set up in small businesses, the better our economy will be, the more self-sufficient our economy will be.
Absolutely. So give me a little bit more information or some more details on how, under your chairmanship, you propose to do this.
Well, first of all, I believe that we are looking in the wrong places presently to try and employ or give opportunity to our people. we have maxed out, I believe, the jobs in the traditional industries like tourism, banking and finance. I believe that we need to think outside the box to employ generations that are presently coming out of school and those who are coming out of school in the future. We need to get away from pushing them toward jobs in tourism or banking. We need to look at what about alternative energy, which will be a major plank going forward, not only in the Bahamas, but in the world. We need to look at these areas, in particular solar. The Bahamas is very much suited for solar. We have more sun than most countries in the world on a yearly basis. Why aren't we converting this sun to energy?
Absolutely.
Why aren't we using wind energy, wave energy? Why aren't we looking at these areas to not only will they produce jobs, but they also help our economy in that we don't use as much fossil fuels. If we're using solar to power our electricity generation and so forth and so on, these are the things that we need to look at to empower Bahamians. We need to get away from the tourism jobs and whatever else because we've maxed those out. That is the case today. We need to look at it and accept it for what it is and move on to new areas to empower Bahamians.
Absolutely. Are there any plans underway to rebrand the public's image?
Absolutely. As far as BAIC is concerned, we will BAIC will be rebranded in its totality. We are coming out with a new logo, which is just about ready. The entire thinking of BAIC will have changed over the next 6 to 8 months. That is very important because I believe with that comes higher staff morale. You cannot move that corporation forward without raising the staff up along with the corporation. The staff are the corporation. Changing minor cosmetic stuff, that's part of it. But raising that staff morale, giving them something to shoot for, will raise their work ethic and it will raise the corporation's level of efficiency. What we plan to do at BAIC is we're trying to look at every staff member, see where they would fit into the new scheme of things, and train them in those areas. That is my vision going forward for BAIC. The BAIC you see today will not be the BAIC you see in 12 to 18 months. I can assure you that.
Mr. Forbes, tell me, what is the current state of agribusiness and light manufacturing in the Bahamas today?
The current state of the agribusiness and light manufacturing industries in the Bahamas is almost non-existent, I would say. We have not grown in those areas like our counterparts have in the Caribbean region. Places like Jamaica have gone after these areas in a very aggressive and successful way. The Jamaicans have a company called Jampro, which is our equivalent of BAIC, which is well organized. They market the Jamaican product worldwide. They hold shows, they attend shows that brings business, light manufacturing into Jamaica. They have gone after these areas in a major way and it helps their economy. Why aren't we doing the same thing? Our agribusiness and light manufacturing sectors are presently nowhere near where it should be. And we plan to move those forward in a major way. We plan to breathe life back into light manufacturing in the Bahamas. The light manufacturers that we have presently have suffered because I believe that part of the problem is BAIC. We've not pumped the resources or the support into light manufacturing that we should have to raise the industry up and to raise the standards up. This BAIC are committed to light manufacturers. We're committed to agribusinesses. We want to move these forward so that we can not only create jobs, but we can give that added boost to the Bahamian economy. I think that those sectors are underutilized, and when we do utilize them, you will see a difference.
Okay, Mr. Forbes, I understand that you've been very busy trying to reorganize BAIC to take it to another level. But before we talk any further about that, let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back and talk more on Let's Talk About.
Hi, I am Hope Strawn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Transport and Aviation. September marks the beginning of the school year. My ministry and the Ministry of Works and Urban Development have partnered with the Royal Bahamas Police Force to launch an ongoing road safety awareness campaign focusing on our school zones, child safety, and the use of seatbelts. Stay tuned for more tips and information that can turn our roads into safe Bahamian streets.
Welcome back. In case you're just tuning in, we have with us in studio Mr. Arnold Forbes, the new executive chairman of BAIC, who has a totally new vision for BAIC. Mr. Forbes, tell us a little more about your plans moving forward. I understand that you're moving into a new location. Tell us about your new facility.
Yes, Ms. Seeley, we are actually in the process of having constructed new executive offices. We are presently at the tender stage, as looking for a good contractor who can make our dreams a reality at BAIC. The facility will be very user-friendly. It's for the Bahamian people. It's for them to come into BAIC. We will have training facilities at the new location. We want the public to come in. Listen, anything that we can do to make you self-sufficient as a Bahamian, we want to get that done. And this will also be a first because this building will be mainly solar powered. So we're moving, we're really putting our money where our mouth is. We talk about renewable energy. We talk about moving away from fossil fuels. This will be the first government complex that I know about, which is mainly solar powered. This building will be powered by solar. That's one of our goals. We did not want to use the traditional methods of powering this facility. We want to set an example for all government ministries. This is the way to go. This is the way of the future. BIAC will lead the way.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wonderful thing. What other new policies will you be implementing? I understand that the Soldier Road facility in particular, since you mentioned that, has some tenants that are struggling there. Are there any plans in place to assist them in any way?
There are plans to assist those tenants who are struggling with their leases or their rents. But I'm not ashamed to say, Ms. Seeley, that part of the problem has been BAAC itself, because we've not produced or we've not presented to a lot of the tenants at times the atmosphere in which to do good business. If you look at the park, the state of the park is much to be desired presently. We plan to revamp that park. We plan to give the tenants of that park who are presently there an environment where they can invite the public to come and do business with them. If I were to walk in that park today, as it stands now, I would not want to do business there or go there to do business. Another thing that we are looking at is trying to market the park in a very substantial way. Marketing is half your battle. If you want to sell something, you have to market it. We want to market those individuals in a way that we can get the public to come into that park and do business. You'd be surprised the light manufacturers there and the quality of work that they do in the park. Under the circumstances, not good. But what we plan to do is we plan to ensure that that we provide the environment that is conducive to doing business. So what we're doing with some of the outstandings, in particular the leases, is we're looking at working with these individuals to alleviate some of the outstandings that they have. Some of them are extremely outstanding. We're looking with Cabinet's approval to even forgive some of this debt and then move forward with a fresh slate. But again, that is subject to the Cabinet of this country making that decision. BAIC will not make that decision alone. We will make a recommendation. But we are there to work with them. We are there to foster good relations. We are there to give them the opportunity to develop whatever craft they're doing. We are there to prop them up and make sure that they're successful in their businesses.
Okay, Mr. Forbes, we touched on it a little earlier, but perhaps you can go into a little more detail in terms of what type of investments will we be trying to attract to the country in terms of light manufacturing and agribusiness?
Yes. Well, listen, again, I'll go back to the point that we need to get away from the traditional forms of employment that are present in the Bahamas. Tourism, which is important. Tourism is our number one industry. But I believe that it's becoming saturated as far as a workforce is concerned. We also have banking and finance, which I believe is also saturated to a point, and it's in recent years has declined because of legislation that's been put in place in the past. What we need to do is we need to think outside the box as far as employment is concerned. So what we want to do is we want to attract new forms of employment. We are presently negotiating with a company who want to come into Bahamas to manufacture solar hot water heaters and solar panels in the Bahamas, in our park. So we are looking at that very seriously. These are the things that we need to look at because that is the future of employment. Again, I will say that alternative energy will be a major form of employment, not only in the Bahamas, but in the world. It is something that is untapped presently, and we need to get into it in a major way from ground level. We need to get our people trained in these areas. We need to also look at farming as also an alternative form of employment in the Bahamas. We have lots of acres and acres of arable land in the Bahamas that is not being utilized. In Andros alone, we have close to, I believe, 10,000 acres of arable land in Andros that we are not utilizing. Why aren't we feeding ourselves in the Bahamas? Why aren't we directing our children toward farming and light manufacturing as future careers? Why aren't we doing this? We are doing them a disservice. We're doing our country a disservice when we don't look at these options. Tourism jobs, we have maximized it. Banking and finance, those jobs, we are maximizing those. Let us look at new areas to focus on. You know, the era of break-back farming, I call it, is gone. There's hydroponics, there's greenhouse farming that are very lucrative if developed in some sort of significant way. We in the Bahamas need to look at these options. The more food that we can grow in the Bahamas to feed ourselves, the less foreign currency leaves our country, okay? When we do that, we become self-sufficient. Our economy is better for it, our people is better for it. We eat better when we grow our own food.
Mr. Forbes, we now have a Ministry of Grand Bahama. Are there any plans to further expand BAIC in Grand Bahama?
Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Prime Minister on making the Ministry of Grand Bahama a reality. It has been on the books for some time, but never implemented. I want to congratulate him. I want to congratulate Minister Darville, who is the Minister for Grand Bahama, and I know he'll do a good job. As far as BAIC is concerned, we have had a presence in Grand Bahama for quite some time. As a matter of fact, quite a bit of the revenue that runs the BAIC engine comes out of Grand Bahama. We believe that Grand Bahamians can benefit greatly from BAIC's assistance, and we plan to move forward with some innovative projects in Grand Bahama to ensure that Grand Bahamians benefit in some significant way from BAIC and its policies. We are presently looking at the fact that Grand Bahama has thousands and thousands of acres of arable land that is not being used. So in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and the consultants who are working between agriculture and BAIC, we want to implement some new policies, some new exciting policies that are tipped to come online very shortly, as far as farming in Grand Bahama is concerned. And I assure you that it will put Grand Bahamians in some respect back to work, or those who want to take advantage of it. So we have major plans for Grand Bahama. We have a craft market in Grand Bahama that is presently underutilized. We want to utilize that so that Grand Bahamians can come into BAIC, the facility that we have in Grand Bahama, and take advantage of it. We are about putting Bahamians to work. We are about making Bahamians, whether in Grand Bahama, Nassau, Abaco, or wherever in the Bahamas, self-sufficient. We want to make sure that they can earn a legitimate living, and we at BAIC will give them the opportunities to earn legitimate livings.
Now, I was reading somewhere that I think it was in 2010, there were almost 400 or over 400 individuals who have been trained and took part in your different handicraft classes throughout the Family Islands.
Absolutely.
I've met and interviewed many of them. But are there more plans to expand your handicraft classes in the Family Islands?
Absolutely. We have a very extensive program that is being headed by Ms. Donnelly Bowe, who's been excellent as far as handicraft and the management of handicraft, not only in Nassau, but the entire Bahamas is concerned. We plan to continue those classes. We plan to ensure that, listen, if you are out there and you want to learn a skill that can earn you money, we want to push you in that direction. We want to give you the training to do that. Believe it or not, Ms. Seeley, handicraft and that industry generates more than $250 million worth of business in the Bahamas presently. But what is happening is that we are importing most of these goods. They're not made locally. So Bahamians are not benefiting from that very lucrative trade. Why aren't we selling more Bahamian handicraft in the Bahamas? Why aren't we directing our people to the fact that, listen, if you can produce something that is unique to the Bahamas, that you can make money from it. $250 million is $250 million that we are losing as a country because we're not producing any handicraft in the Bahamas. I'll give you another example. We have the sponge industry in the Bahamas that some time ago was a very major industry. It died out because of some disease in the 30s and 40s. But the sponge beds in this country are back in a major way. They're repopulated. We are not tapping into that industry. A sponge that is harvested in the Bahamas here, and I'd say it's mainly done by Greeks presently, they take it out of here for $10 or $20. They process it, and they sell it in Europe for $200 per sponge. Why aren't we processing sponge in the Bahamas, something that's indigenous to the Bahamas? As a matter of fact, what they're doing is countries who are selling it, they're passing it off as their sponge, not sponge harvested in the Bahamas. Why aren't we organizing ourselves in cooperatives, harvesting these sponges and processing them in the Bahamas and selling them so that we can maximize the profit in the Bahamas, not overseas? These are areas that we need to look at as Bahamians to move ourselves forward. Again, it's not a traditional tourism-based job. It is something where you can become your own rainmaker, where you can become self-sufficient, where you can go out there and be in control of your future.
Mr. Forbes, you've got a number of incredible ideas that I hope to see you put into action. But one final question, what is the legacy that you would like in years to come to be able to tell your grandchildren that you left or you put in place at BAIC?
Well, Ms. Seeley, the legacy that I would like to leave at BAIC is one of success, one of turning the corporation around from its dormant state presently into a vibrant and important part of the Bahamas' economic engine. A corporation that is a major player as far as light industry and agribusiness is concerned, not only in the Bahamas, but in this region. A corporation that plays the role that it was intended when it was enacted in 1981. A corporation where Bahamians can use it as a resource to start businesses, to incubate businesses, and to grow them into hopefully major corporations one day. We are about putting Bahamians to the fore as far as business is concerned. We are about making sure that any individual, any Bahamian can start a business, that we can support them, give them the business support they need so that they're successful. You see, in the past, we just started, helped them start businesses and we left them out there. What we want to do is we want to provide them with the business support services so that when they run into a problem, they have a resource that they can come back to, who can help them work through their problems and achieve their goals. When they are successful, we are successful as a country. I would like light industrialists and light manufacturers and agribusinessmen to know that they have a friend at BAIC, and we intend to lead the charge as far as light manufacturing, light industry, and agribusiness are concerned in the Bahamas. We intend to put our money where our mouth is. We intend to move Bahamians forward in those fields.
Mr. Forbes, I want to take this time to thank you for taking time to come and chat with us. We know that you're incredibly busy, so we thank you for coming to take time out to share with us. And we want to wish you well in all that you're attempting to do to empower the small and mid-sized business people of this country. And that wraps up another edition of Let's Talk About. On behalf of the Broadcasting Department here at BIS, I'm Gina Seeley. Have a wonderful evening.